7 podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pre, and today we're going to be talking about an HIV vaccine that Johnson & Johnson is working on. I've got some statistics for you here, and I'm going to give a little my opinion on the MeganRapinoe deal, and but we'll get into that afterwards. So my sources are HIV.gov and the Los Angeles Times. So there are approximately 36.9 million people worldwide living with HIV and AIDS in 2017. Of these, 1.8 million were children. An estimated 1.8 million individuals worldwide became newly infected with HIV in 2017. About 5,000 new infections per day. This includes 180,000 children. Most of these children live in sub-Saharan Africa and were infected by their HIV-positive mothers during pregnancy, childbirth, or breastfeeding. AIDS-related deaths have been reduced by more than 51% since the peak in 2004. In 2017, 940,000 people died from AIDS-related illnesses worldwide, compared to 1.4 million in 2010 and 1.9 million in 2004. In 2017, there were 19.6 million people living with HIV, 53%, in Eastern and Southern Africa, 6.1 million, 16%, in Western and Central Africa, 5.2 million, 14% in Asia and the Pacific, and 2.2 million, 6% in Western and Central Europe and North America. Now, Johnson & Johnson is preparing to test an experimental HIV vaccine in the United States and Europe in a move toward developing the first immunization against the deadly disease after decades of frustration. Some 3,800 men who have had sex with men will receive a regimen of shots in a study that is planned to be launched this year, said Anthony Fauci, director of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The agency and the HIV Vaccine Trials Network of testing sites are to collaborate with Johnson & Johnson's. They have it as J&J, and going forward, I'm going to call them J&J. Their Janssen unit on the effort. Now, their Janssen unit is their research and development portion of their company. Since cases began to gain notice in the early 1980s, scientists have been searching fruitlessly for a vaccine against the virus that causes AIDS and kills close to 1 million people worldwide each year. Efforts are continuing with at least 2 other promising candidates in late-stage studies. J&J is trying to make a vaccine that will work in populations around the world that are infected with a myriad of strains of the rapidly changing virus. Other candidate shots have focused on preventing single varieties. The approach brings us one step closer to covering the vast diversity of viruses worldwide, said Dan Baruch, of Harvard Medical School professor whose research laid the groundwork for the vaccine. For medical and global public health reasons, it's better to have a vaccine that works in multiple parts of the world. Collaborators on the study include the U.S. Army Medical Material Development Activity, which develops protective products for soldiers, and results are expected as soon as 2023. The company has spent hundreds of millions of dollars working with the National Institutes of Health, the Gates Foundation, and other groups to try to develop an effective vaccine. The cost of treating HIV patients, the burden for patients, the burden for society is very high, said Paul Stoffels, J&J's chief scientific officer. HIV prevention is a big mission for us. We've been working on it for almost 30 years. The World Health Organization has set a goal of cutting global HIV-related deaths to less than 500,000 by next year. And a vaccine is seen as a crucial tool to help end AIDS epidemic by 2030. Yet efforts to develop a vaccine have been frustrated in part because the virus mutates so quickly. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine has 4 components that target multiple strains of HIV, and Baruch has been developing it for about 15 years. He and Betty Korber, a computational biologist at Los Alamos National Laboratory, designed an optimized set of mosaic proteins to go in the vaccine that would raise immune defenses against a wide variety of strains. The vaccine uses a cold virus that is altered to make the proteins that raise immunity. Study participants get 6 shots in 4 sessions. Conceptually, it's an interesting idea, Fauci said. There's always excitement, but it should be safe for the results. Along with the diversity of strains, HIV presents a number of obstacles to vaccination. Reservoirs of the virus can accumulate within certain cells undetected by the immune system. No one has been able to fashion a vaccine that brings forth broadly neutralizing antibodies, the body's most effective protection against viruses. Still, the J&J vaccine has provided protection in up to 2/3 of tested animals and has so far proved safe in humans, Baroche said. It's measurably better in animal studies than other vaccines tested thus far, said Bruce Walker, director of the Reagan Institute, a Harvard and MIT affiliated biomedical research center focusing on immune approaches to disease. The real questions are, will it be protective? What percentage of people will be protected? And what will be the durability of the protection? Another version of the Mosaic vaccine is being tested in Africa, where the vast majority of HIV transmission takes place. In a trial that began in 2017, that experiment called Imbokodo enrolled about 2,600 women in 5 countries. Now, I heard a story maybe a couple years ago that said that the mosquitoes in Africa were carrying HIV to other people and infecting people, which is absolutely brutal. Running Mosaico is parallel with the Imbokodo study, may cut down the time to approval if the results prove positive, said Mitchell Warren, executive director of AVAC, an HIV prevention advocacy group. You've got this picture where there's one study in women at risk and another about to start in men, he said. You put the trials together in one overall submission to regulators. Even if the first study fails, J&J would likely continue the second, said Hanneke Schutemaker, head of viral vaccine discovery and translational medicine for Janssen. Given the differences between the two populations and their typical routes of infection, the vaccine's dynamic in them may vary dramatically. Fauci is set to give more details of the study at a meeting of the International AIDS Society this month in Mexico City, and J&J also plans to release additional data. GlaxoSmithKline, Gilead Sciences Inc., and Pfizer and other companies have developed dozens of drug treatments over the years that can reduce levels of the virus to the point where it isn't contagious. Some people at high risk take daily doses to protect themselves from infection. That's not feasible in many low-income African countries, where shots would be more economical alternative. J&J gained the vaccine when it made a 2010 agreement to buy Dutch drug maker Crucel for about $2.4 billion. To be successful, the product must succeed where a series of predecessors have stumbled. Those include a vaunted experimental vaccine from Merck and Company that failed and may have increased infections more than a decade ago. Another large trial in Thailand using a vaccine developed in part by Sanofi gave mixed results soon afterward. Continued interest of large pharma companies such as J&J is a good sign after the years of frustration in a field where the market remains uncertain, said Marie Pauly-Kieni, a director of research at French Biomedical Institute, INSERM. This is a good step forward, she said, noting that J&J is also developing a vaccine against Ebola. It's good to see that industry remains committed. Now, obviously AIDS and HIV is still a problem. And it's good to it's reassuring to hear that some of these big companies are trying to battle it, trying to end it, because it's really unfortunate that there's children that are being born and they're contracting AIDS and HIV that way. I mean, that's the epitome of unfair. And I hope that these pharmaceutical companies can come up with a solution that's economical for everybody that is involved, and help people. So that's where we're at with HIV and AIDS. So earlier I'm sure that, as everyone knows, the women's U.S. National team won the World Cup recently. And one thing that has been trending on social media is it's a video of MeganRapinoe and Allie Long. And MeganRapinoe has been the very outspoken player for the team with the purple hair that hates President Trump. And she said that she said that she wouldn't go to the White House if invited, and that's her prerogative. That's fine. What have you. But as they were celebrating their World Cup win, her and her teammate Allie Long, well, she was, they were getting ready to pose for a picture, or they were doing some kind of dance or something, and Allie Long dropped the American flag, and Kelley O'Hara was quick to swipe in and pick up the flag. Now, there's a lot of people that say, is it really that big of a deal? And, to me it is, because it seems that a flag etiquette is something that is not being taught to kids, and they grow up and they don't know what flag etiquette is. And one thing, probably one of the most important rules, other than not burning the flag, is that, under certain circumstances you can burn the flag. I believe you have to cut out the stars and then the stripes, and then you can burn it. But don't quote me, but I'm pretty positive that's what you have to do before you burn a flag. But you cannot let a flag hit the ground, and it's a complete no-no. So Allie Long, she dropped the flag and she was getting ready to step on it. Kelley swept in and grabbed it, but it was almost as if she didn't care. Like, she cared more about taking her picture and doing her pose. No, sure, I get it. You just won the World Cup. It's a big deal, sure, but you also have to be aware of what you're doing, because you're representing the United States, and it goes with anybody on the national stage, is that when you go out there, you represent the people of the United States. You represent everybody, not just yourself. It's not just about you. And MeganRapinoe was I think she was quoted as saying, "I deserve this," when being interviewed. And it's a team effort. It's not just you. It's everybody else. I'm sure that they could have won without her. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. It's a little upsetting. I love the American flag. I think it's a beautiful flag, and it's representative of all of the people that have given the ultimate sacrifice, that have died for this country to give us our freedom, and also the people who tirelessly work to ensure our freedom, and the great people of the United States who represent the country well and go about their business as good Americans. And I think that's why the American flag's a big deal to me. So that's where I stand. Let me know what you guys think. Get at me on Facebook. You can start a conversation. There's a lot of people commenting on my last podcast about Jeffrey Epstein, and it was off the chain. Another thing, guys, if you're going to comment and we're going to talk on Facebook, let's have a conversation. This isn't about cussing people out. Come on out and have a discussion, and try to refrain from cussing people out, because it's not really that big of a deal. We want to make it a place where everybody can talk freely. So that's where I'm at. Check me out on I'm at 57 Podcast on Facebook, at 57 Podcast on Instagram, and at 57 Podcast on Twitter. I am looking to start videotaping the podcast coming up. I've got some interviews coming up, so we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to test it out. I don't have a full video rig yet, but I'm going to be testing a few things out before I'm able to buy a camera, and I'm looking to upgrade the quality here so that we can get video, so you can get video and audio. So check. Oh yeah, I'm also on YouTube. 57 Podcasts on YouTube. When you do a search, type 57 Podcast and then pre, and then it'll come right up, and click subscribe. And I will see you guys later. All right, guys, take care of yourself. This is Pre out.